Today I want to talk about illness, accidents, injuries, things that come and affect our bodies and affect our minds, and how so often our thinking about it can compound the complexity and the severity of our experience. I was coaching a mother last week who had like a really serious medical emergency. And out of respect to her privacy, I'm not going to say what it was or describe it, but I just want to point out that, or I want to illustrate her experience so that you can see how mindset can have a huge impact on how well you can be resilient and have an emotional resource to draw from when you're going through a really hard time physically or even mentally. So, this wonderful mother had a very serious, life threatening event take place where she was rushed to the hospital and she very well could have passed away. She could have died. And when I met with her, it had been a week and a half since that emergency had taken place. And thankfully, she got the care she needed. She was home, she was safe, she was with her family, but she was still dealing with the fallout of that event. It was traumatic. And I noticed right away that she wasn't naming it. She wasn't naming the medical emergency. And like I said, I'm not going to out of privacy for her, out of, you know, so, honoring her privacy. But I noticed that with me, even though we're privately communicating on a Zoom call, that she wasn't naming it. She was saying the event, the thing that happened. And so one thing that did start to help her was to start naming it, naming the event, naming what happened to her. And and then taking a look at how she was feeling and thinking about this emergency that happened. And um, the biggest thing about it was that she was thinking, I'm so lucky to be alive because I could have died. And she didn't even really get herself to say those words, but it could have been so much worse, was what she was saying, implying that, yeah, she could have died and her family would have had to have a loss, would have experienced her death, and how that would have affected the family, her child, her spouse, um, friends and family. And just when you start to think about that ripple effect and the enormity of a near death experience like that, a near death illness, that can be just as overwhelming as the actual experience. And so, as we talked about it, and as we looked at what she was feeling and thinking as a result about this medical emergency, I was able to help her see that if she were to continue to think about what could have happened, the possibilities of a severe um, debilitation or death, and how that would have affected everybody in her life who loves her so much, that focusing on that part of it, what could have happened and how bad things could have been, was actually making things even more stressful and traumatic for her. So I encouraged her to kind of contain that thought, I'm so lucky, to be one that she carries as a peaceful and grateful thought. So thinking, I'm so grateful to be here because I am. I still have my life with my child, with my spouse. I still get to have the opportunities that are so valuable and important to me. And so containing that I'm so lucky, and kind of couching it in that sphere of, I get to continue to be here for my child, and I get to continue to be here for my spouse. I get to continue to be here on this planet. And taking that in, and we did some deep breathing, we did some um, nervous system regulation, and it really helped her to shift out of that terror of what could have been so bad, what all the bad possibilities, all the worst possible outcomes that didn't happen, but she was experiencing that as if it were, and as if her family was mourning her passing. And they didn't. They're not going to at this point. She's getting care, she's recovering, she's doing very well. And so part of her recovery process needs to include reducing stress. And so this is how she's going to help support her own healing process by containing her thinking and noticing the connection that it has to her emotions, calming her nervous system, doing regulating techniques when she does start to feel that terror of what could have happened, how it could have been so much worse. Containing it into, but this is reality. Reality is that I'm here. Reality is that I get to continue life with my family. And that can be a comforting and like a way to feel gratitude instead of the terror of what could have happened. So that was an example I wanted to share because so often we experience um, really frightening medical health challenges or even mental health challenges, or we have an accident, something really maybe pretty devastating can happen, and we are physically harmed by it, we're limited by it, or our mental capacity is diminished somehow. The more that we look at the illness, the injury, as something to be feared, something to despise, something to resent, that's going to compound and complicate what's already difficult. And I want to say you have full permission to say, this is hard. This event was so scary. It was so terrifying. It was painful. We didn't know what was going to happen the next day or even an hour later. We didn't know what recovery was going to look like. It was very, very scary. I want you to give yourself permission to acknowledge that. Acknowledge it. And you might really need to take time to journal. Journaling is a powerful way to release pent up fear or anger or anxiety or depression. I've loved journaling. When I was younger, I journaled quite a bit. I journal, I don't know, I kind of go in fits and spurts. I've been journaling again a lot this past year, and then it's kind of been tapering off again. But I had a few years where I didn't at all. And so, but when I was younger, when I was, I think, in middle school, I journaled a lot. In high school, I did. And as a teenager or as a young adult in college, I did some journaling. And especially around really big events that were just really impactful. So when I was in college, I experienced a major tragedy where I was a passenger in a car accident. And one of my friends passed away. He was killed on impact. And it was deeply disturbing. I was 19 years old. I was starting my junior year of college, and my parents were stationed in Moscow, Russia. So completely opposite sides of the world. And I was in Utah. I was attending Brigham Young University, or I was about to. Anyways, it was the summertime, and I just felt so distressed and distraught. And my parents weren't there. Luckily I did have siblings nearby and lots of relatives, but I found myself journaling and writing the whole experience, things that led up to me even being in the car, the people who were also involved, and I wrote and I wrote. I filled almost a whole notebook, and it helped me to free myself from thinking about it as much as I was just kind of replaying. Writing it helped to calm that down. And it also has given me something I can go back to. And when I want to relive something, I want to remember what it was like. I want to remember so that I can have compassion for other people, or I want to just validate myself. This was hard. This was really scary. And so giving myself permission to honor my experience by going back to my journal has been a powerful thing, although I haven't really needed to for a long time because that was over 25 years ago. So I really haven't needed to for a long time. But also when I wanted to share that with my children and share with them, this was a major point in my life. This was a huge event and it impacted me in huge ways. And I mean, it's a major experience that I want to share. So I'm glad that they can read my journal and see what that was like for me. So, for someone who's going through a difficult thing, either for yourself or for a loved one, writing it down can be a powerful release of the stress and the tension. It can also help you to discover what you're really thinking about it. And when you discover what you're thinking, I hope that you can learn from me and from other life coaches. My name is Michelle Cox, and I'm a certified life coach. And there are many others out there. That intense and tenuous and um, direct connection that there is between our thinking and our emotional experience. Because we don't have to stay in that emotional experience. It's very fluid. We can change the emotional experience that we're having related to an illness or an injury by examining how we are thinking and deciding that there is a different way to think about it that could actually help us in our healing process. So I'm going to show you this model that I have. This is a cognitive behavioral model. It's a diagram. I created this diagram because it's so visual. It puts the pieces together of this puzzle and makes it so clear and makes so much sense in how powerful it is. So I'm going to show you this today, how this can work in the scenario of an illness or an injury. And some injuries can be very debilitating, right? Someone could lose um, access to bodily function. They could lose the ability to work or to speak or to walk or move. It's very impactful. And again, compounding all of that can be how we're thinking about it. And so here's the diagram, and here's the example. So I'm going to go with the example of a serious illness that could potentially be long term. Okay, so a serious illness that is maybe longer term, longer than a 2-week cold or flu, right? And debilitating. Debilitating. All right, here I go with spelling and speaking at the same time. All right, so here we have the illness. This is the circumstance, and I don't want to pick a specific illness. I just want you to I want to keep this open for you to put in, insert in for you what is most meaningful to you. But let's just put up here. The cloud contains the circumstance. Circumstances really are neutral until we start to think about it. I have a friend who is dealing with cancer right now. Just had surgery a week or two ago. She has not shut down her joy. She's one of the most joyful people. Everybody who knows her, she's the first one you would identify as someone you think of who's a joyful person. Everybody thinks of her. And she hasn't let her diagnosis dim her light at all. She's remarkable. But I really do believe that we can work towards that. No matter where you come from, no matter your personality, your temperament, this is something you could work towards, is finding a way to keep your light and let it keep shining even when things are hard and physically taking a toll on you, finding ways to regulate, finding ways to acknowledge it, but then to find a way to get through it. Okay, so I'm going to put here serious illness. It's longer term. It's debilitating. Your normal life function has changed. You can't do what you used to do. So I'm going to take you through a couple different thoughts that I've had from clients and I've heard from friends and family members, and show you how those particular thoughts about the illness are going to change and influence how you feel, and that you can change how you think and change how you feel. So we're going to start with one thought being, Um, this shouldn't have happened. Okay, and I'm going to use different colors to help illustrate. Shouldn't have happened. When someone thinks this shouldn't have happened, they're going to be more uptight. This shouldn't have happened. You might be more likely to be in fight mode. Your nervous system is in fight mode. This shouldn't have happened. This sounds like a thought that would create a feeling that might be kind of angry. This shouldn't have happened. Anger is born out of feeling things are unjust. They're unfair. This is not what I planned for, right? So there might be some anger. When someone is thinking about their illness, this shouldn't have happened. Their nervous system is activated into fight mode and they're angry about it. How are they likely to behave when they're feeling that way? They might be hard to be around, right? So instead of, actually, let me move that. I'm going to move that actually. So, because their action, their decision could be that they are maybe short-tempered with others. Maybe they're complaining. And when they're short-tempered and complaining, and I'm not saying that no one is allowed to complain, I'm not saying that. We are allowed to complain and express that something is hard and painful. But if that's all we do, if that's all we do, we're not going to have our light able to shine and give us peace, okay? So short-tempered complaining, they're kind of hard to be around. People might start to withdraw, right? Higher stress level. Okay. And that's the thing with the cycle, it continues. So if I were to think this shouldn't have happened and I'm angry about it, I'm in fight mode, right? I'm short-tempered, I'm complaining, I'm going to be harder to be around and my stress level is going to be higher and my health is not going to be able to improve as well as it could otherwise, right? So maybe health is negatively impacted, okay? All right, so now let's go through it again with another thought. This shouldn't have happened. Let's see. Oops, I'm trying to get my marker open. So the other thought about it could be, this is too much. This is too much. This is too much. And that to me kind of signals more of a flight mode. You want to get away from it. This is too much. I need to get away. We can be a mix. We can be a mix. Oops, flight. We can be a mix of nervous system states. Try and make this better and I'm making it worse. So flight mode. If I'm thinking this is too much and I'm in flight mode, ooh, yeah, I might feel discouraged. Overwhelmed. In my action line, I might reluctantly get care. I might not take the medicine that I'm being prescribed. I might delay appointments. I might feel kind of hopeless, right? Let me add that here too. Hopeless. So if I'm feeling that, I might be reluctant to get care. And so then what's going to be my result? I would think I would fade away. I would fade away. I would lose that momentum, that desire to live, right? And to recover. And if we don't have that drive to live and survive, our body knows it. Our body thinks then, okay, I shouldn't try. So this is going to continue and continue, right? And different thoughts can lead to different emotions and different behavior and different results. And in this case, too, like negative, the health is negatively impacted. Yeah, same thing with both of that line of thinking. So we take our deep breaths. Always do those stabilizing breaths, right? Bring it back down. The thing is, and what my client discovered last week, the way that you think about the experience, you think about the illness, think about the ramifications on your life. You think about, oh man, how's this going to affect my ability to keep my job? How's it going to affect my diet, the way that I have been living my life, the activities I normally love? All of that is possibly being impacted, right? And that's where things can feel very heavy. So let's go around again. Let's think of some other thoughts. And like I said, my client came up with, I mean, her immediate thought was, I'm so lucky. But it was from a space of, I'm so lucky to be alive because I could have died. And then it would have been horrible for my family. And so instead, we reined it in so that she could say, I'm so lucky and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I still have this time. Um, so I wanted to put that on here too. So I'm so lucky to be alive. And we want to cultivate that from a space of gratitude. Another thought that she had, which was really beautiful, that we kind of came to at the end, because we're talking about her care and how all her life is having to shift and change quite a bit, at least for the time being, for several months. She's going to have to change the way she eats, change the way she exercises or needs to exercise. It's going to impact probably her job at work, and she might have to look for a different position, and just daily life is being affected. So, but what she came to was, it is working out. At first, she said, but things are working out. I'm going to the doctor, I'm getting good care. My boss is working with me. I get to have my leave right now. And maybe we can shift me to a different position so that it will be lower stress. And she started to name all the things that were working out for her and were going well. And before it was like, oh, now I'm affected this way and my brain capacity is this, and I noticed that I'm not functioning like I normally do, and it was a lot of fear. But then when she was able to see, oh, I have good care, my boss is with me, my spouse is taking good care of me, my child is okay, she's nervous, but I can reassure her, just all the things, she could say, oh, it's going to work out. And I said, it is working out right now. It's already working out. And she just had this big sigh of relief. She's like, oh, it is. It is working out. It is working out. I'm learning from this. Okay, so I'm going to add that other thought. It is working out. Things are working out. And she felt acceptance. She felt peaceful and light. And she felt hopeful that things were going to be okay. And so with these emotions, with this emotional experience, then her behavior is to take care of herself and actually enjoy it. she gets to take time to relax. And she realized, oh, this is actually a really good thing that I can slow down and take care of myself. So she's going to take care of herself. She's going to follow her doctor's instructions because she was saying, things that she was going to need to start doing, and to improve her recovery. So she's motivated to take care of herself and to follow the doctor's instructions and to see the positives, to see the positives. Okay, that's a choice to see the positives, even in a difficult situation. So she's choosing now to do that. And as a result, um, she is better connected to her family because she's not only interacting with them out of fear and terror of what had happened. And um, let me see, to family. They're going to enjoy her. They're going to enjoy her. And I think that her child will feel that and also be more peaceful because that was a scary experience for everybody. But I think her child will also now be able to have just that reassurance that things are okay. So the result, reassurance. And operating out of this result, she's going to continue to think, I'm so lucky to be alive and I'm grateful. It's working out and I feel acceptance for what's happened. And I know that what's coming out of this is going to be good too. It's going to be okay. Um, and then she's going to take better care of herself. She's going to follow the doctor's instructions. She's going to look for the positives and express it. And as she does that, she's better connected to her family. She's living with reassurance and in that whole mindset of it's working out. It's working out. This was a very scary thing. And again, I always want to say, allow yourself to acknowledge when something is hard. But then do that deep breathing. Do something to regulate your body. Go for a walk. Talk on the phone to someone you love. Journal. Listen to music that lifts your spirits. And then come and do the mindset part. We got to regulate first and then do the mindset part and be able to see what would be a better way of thinking. So first you got to figure out what are you thinking right now that's causing more distress, intensifying it, intensifying how difficult this is. When you get back to the mindset part and you start to be in control of yourself and not allowing yourself to just be very reactionary, when you're taking control of yourself, that's where you're able to find the transformation, the transformational thinking, the mindset that's going to shift you out from a feeling of terror and hopelessness and into a light acceptance, gratitude, this beautiful state of being. And it was funny because my client said, suddenly it seems like this is the best thing ever that's happened to me. She's like, I don't want to go through that again. But when you put it this way, suddenly it's like, this is kind of a good thing. And I don't want to minimize, and she understood that we're not trying to minimize her experience and to say this wasn't a serious thing because it was very serious. But how do you want to live your life? How do you want your days and years following a traumatic injury or illness? How do you want that to play out? Do you want to continue living in that darker space of fear and gloom and resentment or anger, bitterness, resentment that this has happened? Or do you want to find a way to keep your light back, turned back on, and be a light to other people? How many people do you know that have started a nonprofit? They've done community walks, they've done some sort of memorial fund or something good for the community to help support people who maybe are experiencing something that they have experienced in the past that was very difficult. They've taken their painful chapters and turned them into something constructive and supportive of other people. We are human beings and we need connection. So if our biggest pain can turn into a way to connect with other people who are experiencing pain, we're doing something really important. There's no possible way to eradicate illness or to eradicate mental health challenges or to end all accidents and injuries. It's not possible. They're going to exist. And when we can find a way to embrace our experience and see how can I let this change me into an even more full and complete and open and compassionate person, then it's not a total loss. There's a gain that is going to be the benefit for you and everyone that you can touch with your light. It's not easy. I have one friend, like I talked about earlier, she just has her light on all the time. She's amazing. And when people visit her, she's just radiating and how are you? And really focusing on just loving them. And they're there to comfort her and she's comforting them. Um, and that's, we don't have to be like that all the time. But if we can find ways to work through the valleys, come back up and be a light, acknowledge the valleys, come back up to the light, and find yourself able to be resilient and come back up, come back up, come back up, and stay up longer and find ways to express to other people in connection what you're learning and support them and then find that healing within yourself as you are healing and helping and supporting other people. It is a very nurturing experience for our soul when we can help other people. And it's a beautiful thing, and our communities need it. That's why we have communities. That's why we have social networks, and that's why we need them. So, if you are experiencing an illness or you've had an injury, or a loved one has, or you are experiencing a mental health challenge, it's not going to go away overnight, right? Some things will stay for the rest of your life. But even then, there is a way to create that feeling of acceptance that this is what it is. And I'm going to still define my life by my own brightness instead of this particular challenge that's only one part of my story. I'm going to write a beautiful and full and complete story, and I'm going to do the best that I can to lift other people up as I do. So that's all I want to share today. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Michelle Cox, and if you haven't yet, check out my new workbook that guides you through this process. It teaches you how to put the pieces in whatever experience that you have that's been challenging, that's been overwhelming you, threatening your joy on a daily basis. You can gain control over that, and you can find peace and reassurance, and you can resolve a lot of the trouble that you're feeling and thinking and help to create that beautiful light and life and have your light shine. So the workbook is called Making Sense of Your Internal Experience, and I'll put a link in the comments and you'll be able to find it on Amazon. And I love it. It's helping so many people to learn how to take responsibility for how they feel and change their life and have a more joyful and upbeat and peaceful way of looking at life and being resilient. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again next week.